Doyanek here, your Connect CEO. Welcome to this episode of the Daily Grind. We have a special guest from Canada today. It's Michel Theriault. We'll talk about, or with him in a second. But real quick, hopefully we have a couple new viewers out there today, what this concept is. A few months ago at Connect, we started doing a weekly webcast called the Grind. It was on all sorts of topics, and we were really focused on Connect's 2020 until recently, and then a huge issue of COVID-19 popped up. And so we've gone to a daily format, and we've hoped to bring in guests, as we have one today, experts in the field that can help our FM community confront this COVID-19 issue. And certainly Michel is one of those. And so let's get to it, to the Daily Grind. Michel, welcome to the Daily Grind.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So Michel is one of our, what we call our think tank at Connects, and he's been involved in a number of our efforts, but maybe to some of our members and viewers out there who don't know you, a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. I've been a practitioner in FM for 30 years now, pretty well, a little over 30. That includes managing on the operational side large portfolios, including things like telephone stores, but a lot of government properties, miscellaneous things, data centers, a whole wide range of properties. The last 12 or 13 years, I've been a consultant to the industry, mostly focusing on operational organization changes, procurement, and things like that.
And as I recall from our interactions around the think tank, an author of several books.
Yes, I've written a few books. One of them is on real estate and facilities, and the others are on more business-related type topics that also can relate to facilities folks. Forgot to mention, I also do quite a bit of training, and of course I've helped Connex develop their online training for the competencies of FM.
And what a coincidence we have you here to talk to us today about FM topics. And one of those is, I don't mean to make light of it, but we are dealing with a very serious situation with COVID-19, and on how you plan for something like that. I know our FMs love to have plans, but as the saying goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, our entire continent here, our entire continent has been punched in the face. And so, yeah. Michel, what are some of your thoughts? So if you're an FM out there, everyone I'm sure has thought a little bit about how to deal with this, but your thoughts on planning for something like this, and maybe as they confront it, how they continue to plan and operate as an FM.
Sure. The first thing, unfortunately, almost everybody should have had a plan to deal with something like this, not necessarily a worldwide pandemic, but something of this nature that would cause a lot of disruption. If you don't have it already, I'm sure you're in the throes of working through it. And when we're out on the other side of this, you should put pen to paper and be ready for the next thing that comes up. The whole idea of disaster planning is about looking forward and saying what can go wrong, basically. A pandemic is an extreme version, but it could be as simple as a flood, power outage, ice storm, heat emergencies. Almost anything that can disrupt your organization's business. And you look at each of those and you say, what can we do if that happens? It's an assessment, and then how do you mitigate it? So obviously power failure, you mitigate it by having backup power as an example. Then you prepare for it, then you respond to it, and then after the response is over, you end up recovering from it. And how do you get your stores back up and running?
Well, and a thought came to mind as you brought that up too, as we saw in the Southeast United States, they have had huge storms come through in the last week. So the world doesn't stop moving even as we're dealing with COVID. Now you got all these FMs who are dealing with storms, and so it's kind of be a one on top of the other type of deal. So in your experience, we're talking about, we're in the throes of this COVID-19. At some point, we're going to come out of this, and there's going to be a ramp up in all sorts of operations. What are your thoughts on, maybe you talked about putting pen to paper, get that plan. If you aren't doing it now, get it done. What are your thoughts about confronting the aftermath of something like this?
That's actually a really good point. Everybody's really busy right now dealing with it. We're in the response phase. It's happening, and you're doing things on a daily basis, and you're even changing some of what you do as new realities occur. I want to point out that while this happens, you should be looking forward and saying, what's happening in other jurisdictions that might happen to you as well. That's part of the response you should be doing on an ongoing basis. The recovery part is something you should start to think about. Eventually, and it's hard to predict when, but eventually things will go back to a little more normal. If you've closed stores, you're going to have to open them. If you've put mitigation processes in place so that people visiting your stores can be safe, you're going to have to decide what you keep using and what you get rid of. You should be thinking about this now and preparing for when that happens. Find a few moments every now and then, jot some notes down, think about it, and then you'll be better prepared when we go into the recovery phase of this. A good example is a lot of retailers are putting up plexiglass to protect cashiers and other folks.
Yep.
Are you going to keep those? Is that going to become a new normal as you go forward, or are you going to have to engage contractors to remove them all?
Good stuff, Michel. Great quick thoughts. And we do try to we'd love to have you back when we have more time on this. We try to keep these episodes short, and or maybe even meet you face to face someday when we're not all virtual. But thanks for being part of the Daily Grind. And that's our episode for today. Appreciate you all joining us, and join us tomorrow. Same link, same time, 1 Central, for the next episode of the Daily Grind. Thanks for being here.